Hello, senior parents. Welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me in this highly personal electronic version of Back to School Night. That's my dog running around in the background there, so you can be introduced to her as well. But what I really want to do in this few minutes is just to introduce myself, provide a little bit of background information for you, and then introduce a little bit about the course. So let me start by saying again, my name is Chris Hathaway. I'm from New York. I was born in New York City and raised upstate about an hour and a half north of New York City in Dutchess County. Went to high school, boarding school in Connecticut and then Pennsylvania, and ended up going to the University of Vermont for my first 2 years at college and transferring to Yale University where I graduated in 2007. So had a number of different experiences throughout my academic career, all wonderful in their own way. I went into investment banking directly after college, which wasn't the right fit for me. So I decided to take a little bit of time off and do some soul searching, if you will, on skis in Colorado. So once that winter was over, I went back to New York and started taking a few classes, ended up in advertising for a year, and then finally pulled the trigger and went back into academia for good, getting my master's in education at NYU Steinert, and beginning to teach in New Jersey at the Hun School of Princeton, where I remained for 3 years before moving out to California and joining Sage Hill in 2014. So I'm in my 5th year at Sage Hill, and I am teaching seniors for my 5th year, although I've bounced around a little bit, first teaching advanced composition, then art of story, and now influence, which is a course I created a couple of years ago, and I'm in my 2nd year teaching. So it was introduced last year, and this is the 2nd year of its existence. So I'm really thrilled about it. This year I have changed a few of the texts, so it's going to be a new experience for me in some regard as well, which keeps things fresh, and hopefully I've selected some texts that the students respond to as well. I've tried to select as diverse a body of text as I could in terms of styles and narrative voice and such, so that there's something for everyone in there, and we'll see how well I do as the year progresses. So with respect to logistics, everything's been going really well so far. Students just submitted their first journal extension. So the way the class really functions is I will lecture generally at the beginning of each class, and then students will perform some form of writing exercise in their journal, which is really an area for them to kind of explore and experiment, and just really put in some thought in a fun and engaged way. So that's really our class participation for the first three interim, of the school year, where I will collect their journals at the end of that particular interim and read through all the different exercises and provide a grade that way. As that's really the biggest form of engagement outside of discussion of our text, where I try to encourage all voices and we'll cold call and that kind of thing. So participation is kind of required in that sense, I guess. But the graded portion is specific to the journal. The journal extensions are major assignments, and that's where they have the option to choose one of the exercises they've performed in class to expand into a larger work, generally a scene, not necessarily a full story, where they're trying to implement the different techniques and elements of craft that we've discussed. So for this first journal assignment, we've really spoken about the idea of showing versus telling, and then character development. So those are the elements that I'm really looking for in that first piece, and then we'll move on as the year progresses into dialogue and plot and voice and that kind of thing, in an effort to create kind of a general overview of the elements that go into the craft itself. So it's exciting for me to be able to teach this class. I love writing and do a great deal of it in my own time, specifically fiction and short stories at the moment. So I'm studying hand in hand with the students, and it's kind of two birds, one stone, if you will. I love this class because I'm able to research independently and continue to hone my skills, and then kind of just convey that information that I've gathered to the students in a form that hopefully they can appreciate and implement themselves. In terms of navigating Canvas and that kind of thing, I assume you're fairly familiar with the interface. The way it works on my page is that it always starts with the syllabus and calendars, where you can find a great deal of information or syllabus about the course itself if you want to peruse that. And then the calendars, there will always be a monthly calendar where you can see what we're doing in class each day and what the homework is each day, what we're doing in class in blue and then the homework in red. And you can find that in that syllabus and calendars module. Below that is always the module that we're in at that particular moment in time. So right now we're in the character unit of this year, and so you'll see the character module as our second module. And then the third will always be this kind of general information module with information on reading, writing, and editing practices, kind of handouts, if you will. I try to run a virtual classroom to cut down on paper and just clutter, as I know students have enough of that, and they always have access to their devices. So I encourage them to create a folder on their computer that's specific to English, and they should keep all of their drafts and that kind of thing in those folders so that they're keeping all of their material throughout the year. Now, one specific comment on drafting and grading in general. Creative writing is a tough class to grade just because it's sometimes difficult to determine the amount of effort a student is putting in. So with that in mind, what I have asked students to do is to keep track of their drafts, to save new versions every time they perform a full edit of a particular work. And in that way, if I grade a particular piece at a level that is not necessarily commensurate with the effort that was put in, which is what I'm primarily concerned about throughout this year as each student comes to the class with a different background or skill level, I'll ask to see their drafts. And so long as there's a track record, what I'll do is read through all those drafts and see how the piece progressed and developed over time. So I guess the biggest takeaway from this is for you to encourage your students, your children, my students, to start on the writing process as early as possible rather than procrastinating, so that they can write those drafts, allow them to sit, and then come back to them, edit, and so on and so forth in as many iterations as time will allow. So that's really it. I'm thrilled about working with this group of students. They already seem to have a pretty solid chemistry. We've had a month under the belt, which is kind of hard to believe at this point, but things are going really well. I just collected the first journal extensions, as I said, so I'm really excited to read them, and I welcome you to access Canvas to see my comments to what extent you're interested. And with that said, I really just want to make sure that you are aware that you are always welcome to contact me with any questions or concerns throughout the year. The best way to get in touch with me is email. I'm highly responsive to email, and if we need to set up some time to chat, either in person or over the phone, we can do that then. So anyways, thank you so much again for taking the time to sit down with me in this forum, and I will look forward to getting to know each one of you to a certain extent throughout the year. So thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.